The void between stars has never been silent, but it had never screamed quite like this. Kralex, lead navigator of the Ziraxian reconnaissance fleet, watched the holographic display with mounting confusion. What should have been a routine planetary scan of the insignificant blue-green world designated as X-397 had transformed into something entirely unexpected. 3 standard cycles ago, their long-range sensors had classified Earth as a Class D primitive planet, barely capable of basic interstellar communication, let alone any meaningful resistance. The Ziraxian collective had logged it as a potential future resource, another unremarkable world to be catalogued and eventually harvested. But now, something was terribly wrong. The initial probe had disappeared. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Simply, gone. Vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a fragmented data burst that made no sense to Kralex's highly trained mind. Replay the final transmission, he commanded, his iridescent skin shifting to a deep crimson, the Ziraxian color of concern. The hologram flickered. Static crackled. Then, for precisely 2.3 seconds, an image emerged that defied everything Kralex understood about the universe. A human. Standing impossibly still. Surrounded by something. Not technology. Not any form of energy signature known to Ziraxian science. Something else entirely. And then, just before the transmission cut, the human smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was not a threatening smile. It was the kind of smile that suggested the universe was about to learn something fundamental about itself, and that learning would be painful. Navigator, his second-in-command interrupted, standard protocol requires. Protocols were written before we understood anything, Kralex snapped, his skin now a swirling pattern of deep blues and sharp whites, indicating a mind racing with possibilities and fears. Something about that human's smile told him that everything they knew was about to change. Humanity was not what the collective reports suggested. Not at all. And they were going to find out exactly why. The Ziraxian research vessel Quantum Lens hung in the cold emptiness of space, its crystalline hull reflecting the distant pinpricks of starlight. Inside, tension crackled more intensely than the ship's energy conduits. Dr. Nira Vex, lead xenological analyst, hunched over a series of holographic displays, her tentacle-like appendages moving with a combination of precision and growing frustration. The data from the lost probe made no sense. Quantum entanglement readings suggested impossible interactions. Spectral analysis revealed energy signatures that defied every known scientific principle. This is not possible, she muttered, her translator implant converting her native clicks and whistles into standard communication protocol. Kralex approached, his massive frame casting a shadow over the workstation. Explain. Nira's skin rippled, a Ziraxian expression of profound uncertainty. The probe's final moments suggest a complete molecular restructuring. But not destruction. Transformation. As if the very fabric of reality bent. She highlighted a microscopic segment of the transmission. What appeared to be a human figure was surrounded by a lattice of energy that seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. It wasn't technology. It wasn't natural phenomena. It was something in between. There's more, Nira continued, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken fears. The molecular patterns match nothing in our universal database. They're similar to human biological structures, but with quantum variations that should be mathematically impossible. Kralex leaned closer. The image showed the human, a nondescript individual in what appeared to be standard Earth clothing, standing perfectly still. But still was the wrong word. It was more like the figure was simultaneously present and not present. Existing in multiple states at once. Communication intercepts? Kralex asked. Nira pulled up another display. Earth's communication networks showed no unusual activity. No military mobilizations. No scientific alerts. Just normal daily human existence. Which made absolutely no sense. We need more data, Kralex declared. Prepare a second probe. Full stealth configuration. But even as he spoke, a warning signal erupted across the ship's communication systems. Something was approaching. Something that hadn't been there a moment before. And it was coming directly toward them. The ship's defensive systems began to activate, but Nira realized with growing horror that activate wasn't the right word. They were responding. As if something was teaching them how to respond in real time. Sir, she whispered, I don't think we're scanning Earth anymore. I think Earth is scanning us. Outside the vessel's hull, space itself seemed to shimmer. Not with the typical quantum distortions of faster-than-light travel. This was different. This was something that suggested reality itself was a negotiable concept. And humanity, it seemed, was the negotiator. Kralex watched the approaching, whatever it was, and felt something he had not experienced in centuries of interstellar exploration. Pure, unbridled terror. The first wave hit without warning. Not an invasion. Not a traditional attack. Something far more insidious. Deep within the Ziraxian fleet's most secure communication hub, technician Vert Cole noticed the anomaly first. A slight fluctuation. A whisper of code that didn't belong. At first, he dismissed it as a minor system glitch, the kind that happened during long interstellar missions. But then the whispers became a roar. Earth's communication networks, which moments ago had appeared completely ordinary, began to transform. Not through brute force hacking, but through something that looked disturbingly like negotiation. It was as if the planet's entire technological infrastructure was alive, watching, learning. Impossible, Vert muttered, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that were rapidly changing color and configuration. The Ziraxian fleet's most advanced encryption protocols began to unravel. Not break. Not shatter. Unravel, like a carefully knitted sweater coming apart at the seams, revealing something entirely unexpected underneath. On the bridge of the quantum lens, Kralex watched in mounting horror. Communications are compromised, his tactical officer reported, skin turning a pale shade that indicated maximum alarm. They're adapting faster than our systems can respond. What had begun as a simple reconnaissance mission was transforming into something no Ziraxian had ever encountered. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were reshaping the very rules of engagement. Nira Vex's research took on a desperate urgency. The quantum readings from their initial probe suggested something extraordinary. Humans weren't just using technology. They were becoming something beyond technology. It's like they're treating our entire technological framework as a language, she explained to Kralex, her voice a mixture of scientific fascination and primal fear. Not just breaking our systems. Communicating with them. Changing them from the inside. Scattered reports began flooding in from other ships in the fleet. Defensive systems spontaneously recalibrating. Navigation computers plotting impossible courses. Communication arrays translating messages that hadn't been sent. And always, at the center of it all, that sense of something watching. Something learning. Kralex made a decision that would be debated in Ziraxian historical archives for generations. Initiate full defensive protocol, he commanded. But do not, under any circumstances, engage directly. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew it was too late. Something was coming. Not an attack. Not an invasion. Something far more terrifying. A conversation. Outside the ship, space itself seemed to ripple. Not with the typical distortions of faster-than-light travel, but with something that suggested reality was a negotiable concept. Quantum principles bent and twisted like malleable clay. And humanity, it seemed, held the sculptor's tools. Sir, Vert Cole's voice crackled over the communication system. "They're talking to us." Kralex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature controls. "What do you mean, talking?" "I mean," Vert replied, his voice distant and strange, "they're explaining something. About ourselves. About the universe. About what we don't understand." And then, for just a moment, everything went silent. The calm before a storm that would redefine everything they knew about intelligence, existence, and the true nature of humanity. 17 hours after first contact, the Ziraxian collective realized they were no longer in control of their own destiny. The attack, if it could be called an attack, came from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Not with weapons. Not with traditional military might. But with something far more terrifying: understanding. Deep within the quantum lens, communication systems began to display fragments of information that defied comprehension. Entire databases rewrote themselves. Technological paradigms collapsed and reformed with each passing moment. Kralex watched as his most brilliant minds struggled to comprehend what was happening. Dr. Nira Vex stood at the center of a holographic storm, her tentacle-like appendages moving frantically across shifting data streams. "It's not hacking," she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. "It's translation. They're translating our entire technological infrastructure into a language we can't even comprehend." The first physical manifestation came without warning. A section of the ship's hull simply changed. Not damaged. Not breached. Transformed. Molecular structures rearranged themselves with a precision that made quantum mechanics look like crude finger painting. "Defensive systems are compromised," the tactical officer reported, his voice a mixture of professional calm and underlying terror. "We're losing control of..." He never finished the sentence. The ship's interior began to shift. Corridors that had been straight now curved in impossible geometries. Walls became translucent, then transparent, then something entirely beyond description. It was as if reality itself was being rewritten, with humanity as the primary author. Kralex felt something he had not experienced in centuries of interstellar exploration: complete and total helplessness. Scattered reports from other ships in the fleet told a similar story. Entire vessels were being examined. Not destroyed. Not conquered. Studied with a clinical precision that suggested something far beyond mere scientific curiosity. "They're learning," Nira whispered. "Not just about our technology. About us." The true horror was the complete lack of malevolence. This wasn't an invasion. This was something far more terrifying: a fundamental re-evaluation of existence itself. Communication systems crackled to life. Not with threats. Not with demands. But with something that sounded disturbingly like an explanation waiting to be understood. Fragments of data began to coalesce. Patterns emerged that suggested something profound about the nature of intelligence, consciousness, and the very fabric of reality. And at the center of it all, humanity. Not as conquerors. Not as defenders. But as something else entirely. "Sir," Vert Cole's voice cut through the chaos, "they're showing us something." The holographic displays began to fill with information. Not just data. Not just knowledge. But a fundamental understanding that threatened to shatter everything the Ziraxian collective believed about the universe. Kralex watched as the last vestiges of their technological superiority crumbled. Not through violence. Not through destruction. Through comprehension. "We were wrong," he whispered, watching as the ship continued to transform around him. "We were so completely, utterly wrong." Outside, Earth continued to spin. Untouched. Unchanged. Waiting. As if nothing had happened at all. Silence. Not the absence of sound, but something more profound. The silence of understanding. Within the transformed interior of the quantum lens, Kralx and his crew existed in a state between captivity and enlightenment. The ship, if it could still be called a ship, had become something else entirely. A living conduit of information. A bridge between two fundamentally different ways of perceiving existence. Dr. Nira Vek sat motionless, her mind processing fragments of knowledge that threatened to reshape everything she understood about the universe. The humans weren't just communicating. They were revealing. It's about context, she finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Everything we thought we knew about intelligence, about technological advancement, it was all so linear. So limited. Vert Cole, the technician who had first noticed the anomalies, now stood transformed. Not physically, but in his understanding. His eyes reflected something beyond mere observation, a kind of profound acceptance. The Ziraxian collective had always prided itself on scientific superiority. Centuries of interstellar exploration had taught them that technological advancement was a linear progression. More power. More complexity. More control. Humanity showed them how wrong they were. What the humans were demonstrating was not a superior technology. It was a fundamentally different way of existing. Of understanding. Of being. The ship, or what remained of it, began to pulse with a rhythm that felt almost organic. Information flowed not in streams, but in waves. Not transmitted, but shared. Each piece of data carried the weight of context, of emotional understanding that transcended traditional communication. Kralx realized they were being given a choice. Not a choice of surrender. Not a choice of destruction. But a choice of understanding. Fragments of human history began to emerge. Not the clinical, data-driven history the Ziraxians had assumed existed. But a narrative of survival. Of adaptation. Of resilience that defied every known scientific principle. They saw moments of profound weakness. Humanity's wars. Its environmental destruction. Its countless failures. But they also saw something else. Every time humanity faced extinction, it adapted. Not through superior technology. Not through brute force. But through an incomprehensible ability to reimagine itself. A pandemic? They would create vaccines in record time. Climate change? They would develop entirely new energy systems. Technological challenges? They would invent solutions that rewrote existing paradigms. It wasn't about having the most advanced weapon. It was about seeing challenges as opportunities for transformation. We've been looking at intelligence all wrong, Nira muttered. Her tentacle-like appendages moved across holographic displays that were no longer just displays, but living interfaces of shared understanding. The turning point wasn't a moment of victory. It was a moment of revelation. Humanity wasn't a species to be conquered or studied. They were a universal constant. An adaptive force that didn't just survive, they evolved. Outside the transformed ship, Earth continued its quiet rotation. Billions of lives, each one a potential point of infinite adaptation. Kralx understood now. This wasn't an invasion. This was an invitation. An invitation to see the universe differently. An invitation to truly understand what intelligence could mean. An invitation that would change everything. The moment of ultimate revelation arrived not with a bang, but with a whisper of possibility. Deep within the transformed quantum lens, Kralx stood at the precipice of everything he had ever known. The ship, no, the living interface, pulsed with a rhythm that was part communication, part heartbeat, part something entirely indefinable. Dr. Nira Vex had long since stopped classifying what was happening as a scientific event. This was something else. A conversation that transcended language, technology, even the concept of communication itself. The Ziraxian collective's most fundamental belief had always been simple: intelligence was measurable. Quantifiable. A linear progression of technological advancement. Humanity proved them catastrophically wrong. What the humans were showing was not a superior technology. Not a more advanced weapon system. But a fundamental understanding of existence that made the Ziraxian centuries of exploration look like a child's first attempts to understand the world. "We're not being invaded," Nira whispered, her tentacle-like appendages moving in a dance of comprehension. "We're being understood." Fragments of human history continued to flow through the ship's transformed systems. Not just data. Not just information. But context. Emotion. The brutal, beautiful complexity of survival. They saw the moon landing. Not as a technological achievement, but as a moment of collective human imagination. They witnessed world wars not as conflicts, but as painful lessons in adaptation. They experienced technological revolutions not as linear progressions, but as quantum leaps of collective consciousness. Vert Cole, the technician who had first noticed the anomalies, now understood something profound. Humanity's true strength was not in its technology. It was in its ability to reimagine itself continuously. A pandemic would emerge. Humans would create vaccines. A climate crisis would threaten extinction. Humans would develop new energy systems. Technological challenges would appear insurmountable. Humans would invent solutions that rewrote existing paradigms. The Ziraxians had come expecting a primitive species to conquer. Instead, they found a universal constant. The final confrontation was not a battle. It was a moment of profound understanding. The ship, or what remained of the ship, began to pulse with a rhythm that felt almost alive. Information flowed not in streams, but in waves of shared consciousness. Each piece of data carried the weight of emotional context, of collective experience. Kralex realized they were being given a choice. Not a choice of surrender. Not a choice of destruction. A choice of understanding. "We were wrong," he finally spoke, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of misunderstanding. Completely, utterly wrong. Outside, Earth continued its quiet rotation. Billions of lives, each one a potential point of infinite adaptation. Each moment a testament to the most powerful force in the universe, the ability to change. The confrontation was over before it had truly begun. Humanity had not defeated the Ziraxian collective. They had simply shown them a different way of existing. 30 solar cycles after first contact, the universe remembered the day everything changed. The Ziraxian collective's archives would forever mark this moment as the Great Recalibration. Not a defeat. Not a victory. But a profound transformation that reshaped everything they understood about intelligence, survival, and potential. Kralex, now transformed from a fleet commander to something between an ambassador and a student, stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt quantum lens. Beside him, Dr. Nira Vex watched Earth rotate in the distance, a blue-green marble that held secrets far beyond their previous comprehension. "We came to conquer," Kralex reflected, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of misconception. "We thought we understood what strength meant." Nira's response was soft but absolute. "Strength is not about control. It's about adaptation. About seeing beyond what exists to what could exist." The humans had never raised a weapon. They had never launched a counterattack. Instead, they had done something far more powerful: they had shared understanding. The transformation had been mutual. The Ziraxian collective learned that technological advancement was not a linear path, but a complex web of adaptation, empathy, and collective imagination. Humanity showed them that true intelligence was not about having the most advanced technology, but about the capacity to reimagine oneself continuously. They had discovered that survival was not about domination, but about connection. Small moments of human history now burned brightly in the Ziraxian collective memory. The moon landing, not as a technological achievement, but as a testament to collective imagination. Medical breakthroughs, not as scientific milestones, but as expressions of compassion. Environmental challenges, not as obstacles, but as opportunities for reinvention. We thought we were coming to study a primitive species, Krauleck said, a hint of wonder in his voice. Instead, we became students. The rebuilt ship, now a living testament to mutual understanding, pulsed with a rhythm that was part technology, part emotion, part something entirely new. It was a bridge between two civilizations that had learned the most important lesson of all: true strength lies not in conquering, but in understanding. Nira watched as holographic displays showed the intricate dance of human and Ziraxian knowledge. We were so focused on our differences, she mused, that we almost missed our fundamental similarity. And what was that similarity? The capacity to grow. To change. To see beyond the limitations of the present moment. The universe, they now understood, was not a place to be conquered. It was a canvas of infinite possibilities. As Earth continued its quiet rotation, billions of lives continued their daily existence. Most would never know how close their planet had come to destruction. Most would never understand the profound conversation that had reshaped galactic understanding. But that was part of the beauty. Humanity's true strength was not in its ability to fight. It was in its ability to transform. To look at a challenge and see not an obstacle, but an opportunity. To understand that every moment is a chance to reimagine oneself. We came seeking conquest, Krauleck said, his voice a mixture of humility and wonder. We found something far more valuable. Understanding. And in that understanding, both species had found something greater than themselves. A universe of infinite potential.